And this is the aha moment. My name is Erin Backus. As you know, this is our second episode on YouTube, and we really appreciate you watching us this evening. Irene, we have our co-host with
Hello.
me.
Hi,
And then of
everybody.
and then of course you see our guest tonight, Kirk Hines.
Hi, glad to be back.
If you didn't listen to Kirk's episode prior, he was last season. He was episode oh, you know what? I wrote this down. I was prepared tonight, and now I'm not prepared. He was episode 37. So if you haven't listened to his story yet about his aha moment, please go back and listen to it. But we brought him back here tonight because he has some wonderful gardens he just installed, and we want to learn more about them. And if you don't know him, I'll go back a little bit further. I know I feel exposed when I am on the video now. It's a little different. But
Yeah.
we're getting there. We're making it work. We're
We don't
expanding,
have
we're growing.
we don't have fancy backgrounds this time, Erin. That's the other thing.
Oh yeah,
At
well
least I don't.
last time Kirk, Irene, and the guest had these fancy, gorgeous backgrounds, and I'm like sitting here, I'm like, oh, you can see my blinds.
Hey, that's my laundry.
But if you don't know Kirk, he is a registered horticultural therapist down in Georgia. He works at AG Rhodes, a nonprofit organization that provides therapy and rehab services to short-term recovery and long-term care out of Atlanta. So we're actually going to be able to see a few of his gardens tonight, which is really cool, which is really what I wanted to expand into the YouTube just to showcase these wonderful gardens that we're talking about and that the HTs we have on here to showcase them.
Yeah.
Um,
And
so
hear the progress, hear the newer developments or the more recent developments in Kirk's work experience. We're excited to hear some more of your lessons learned through these projects. And so if you have any continued smaller aha moments of realization and what you are capable of doing and when you need to ask for help and so forth, those are important things that we all should continue to appreciate as professionals in this field.
Oh,
So,
absolutely. Many times we're flying solo, so we're accustomed. In fact, that was the very basis of my training as an intern working at Northwest Georgia Regional Hospital. John Paul Bro was my HTR, and from the get-go, his mantra was, "You're going to be on your own. If you want to do it, you got to do it. If you're going to pay
mhm,
for it, you got to find it. You know,
mhm,
if you
mhm,
want it, you have to make it happen. You're going to be it." So
mhm.
sometimes it's hard for some of us, hermit Obi-Wan Kenobi, horticultural therapists out in the outer rim of the galaxy,
That is a
asking
perfect
for help, or
analogy. Thank
yeah,
you for saying that analogy. I love that, Kirk.
finding others to work with and perhaps get advice from, inspiration from, or in the case of these big gardens we just put in, really putting a team together that makes it happen.
yeah.
So can you give us one of those projects or one of these larger garden settings that you've just installed or that you're in the process of finishing up? What is that about and why did it come about?
Sure. AG Rhodes is about to have its 120th anniversary Thursday. And it's been in the Atlanta area all that time. It was founded as a type of skilled nursing for elders, and it's expanded to three buildings: AG Rhodes Atlanta, AG Rhodes at Wesley Woods, and then AG Rhodes Cobb. About 10 years ago, our leadership really wanted to focus on person-directed care, having dementia-specific care and an environment that truly uh, enriched the lives of those living with dementia. Because
Mhm.
many times our buildings are still based on a hospital model rather than more of a Dutch community model where people live within a community. They really have say and take charge of what they want to do during the day, when they want to take a shower, when they want to eat, all kinds of things. So we wanted to create a building that could be a model for others to use in the US. So that process started 10 or 11 years ago, maybe even longer.
Wow.
And then we started designing about 3.5, 4 years ago. Of course, there was all of the fundraising involved, and
Mhm.
the Atlanta community was incredibly supportive. So we were able to construct this new home community on the same property as A.G. Rhodes Cobb up near Marietta. And this new building has 3 floors, 2 communities on each floor. Each community has 12 private bedrooms with private baths, um,
Wow.
day area, dining area, small kitchen. Um, so really, it's a very beautiful space, and it's designed in such a way that it draws people out and helps them form more of a community. And then my
Mhm.
gardens are attached to those, our horticultural therapy gardens. And from the get-go, I have to say, it's even having worked in this organization for 11 years now, I was shocked at the amount of focus and care that leadership wanted to have within the horticultural therapy gardens. It's
Mhm.
really become part of the fabric of the organization.
Mhm.
And these garden spaces, we do have some general landscape, but the majority of the landscape and the intensity of the landscape is horticultural therapy focused and under my under my guidance.
Mhm.
I was really amazed at the support.
I remember from, interviewing with you the last time that Aaron and I had the honor to do so, you, your program just sounded so incredibly supported, as you're saying, like the fact that you had so much financial support and prioritization
Mhm.
within the facility is pretty, it's very unique. So,
It's
Was
almost
it?
unheard of, and
Yeah.
especially in a nonprofit
yeah,
skilled nursing organization. Skilled
yeah,
nursing organizations are notoriously underfunded, understaffed,
yeah.
and yeah, for them to
Just
focus that much.
was it mainly a lot? I'm just curious. I started actually, I'm taking a grant writing certification right now. And I'm just curious, was your funding like direct funding? Was it grants? Was it a combination? Because
That was,
that's a lot of money.
yeah, I mean, I can
Yeah.
I can say the building and the surrounding gardens landscapes, we were looking at about a 33, $34 million project. Yeah. And
That's
But
amazing.
but how much of that was of the horticultural therapy program garden space, would you say?
I don't know if I'm supposed to say,
Okay.
but it was substantial.
Yeah.
Um, and it was funded through our development office, of course, worked around the clock on this, and our
Hmm.
leadership, our board members um,
For
formed a
years. Yeah.
committee, yeah, for years, um, working with foundations and private donors and just many sources, but it turned
Yeah.
out to be quite effective.
Yeah, I guess it's not so much the amount of, but just the percentage. I'm always curious about where the expenses fit
Mhm.
within the whole formula of it. You know what I mean? So
I'll say
was it like a
the
third of the
landscape wasn't
budget, a quarter of the budget, stuff like that?
the landscape was probably the general landscape, and horticultural therapy gardens was probably, less. It was less than $1 million.
Yeah.
The majority, of course, was the building
Right.
Yeah.
and all of the site preparation, getting that in, the equipment, of
Hmm.
course.
Hmm.
Um,
Which is still a great amount of money. It's just, I think it's important for other HTs who are, expecting to expand their programmatic space, or if
mhm,
they're working, like I'm working with a botanical garden where we have a big new master plan happening, how much of that master plan is going to incorporate the HT development. And so it's really important that we advocate in that planning process. And so
absolutely.
I'm just saying to other horticultural therapy programmers, please advocate and be in that planning process, because otherwise you just get people, if you don't make yourself known or put yourself into that initiation,
Mhm,
then they're not going to really remember, or you'll be an afterthought.
mhm.
So
Well, you know, it many times it costs the same amount to install a horticultural therapy garden as it would a fair, a somewhat intense general landscape. So
oh, definitely.
why not design it for horticultural therapy? But it's so much easier to install new than it is to retrofit.
Hmm.
Oh,
And
yeah.
this is one of the first times that I've been able to install new. Just you had a
Hmm.
clean slate. There were budgetary parameters, some design constraints, but to install it brand new from the beginning, that's really been fantastic.
So what are
So
we
I
looking at here?
do, yeah, I mean, I do have some photos if you want me to go through
Sure,
Kirk. Just tell me when to stop so that you can start talking where you feel comfortable.
sure. Well,
Um,
we can start here. This
okay.
is what we're calling the rehab garden. Our original building on this location is going to become more subacute rehab focused for residents that come in post surgery, post stroke, some type of medical event, and they come here for rehab. So we have PT, OT,
Mhm.
speech therapy, horticultural therapy, music therapy, and all of the supportive care. So this garden, since it's between the old building and the new building,
Mhm.
we wanted it to be more rehab focused. This is the main water feature.
Right.
We wanted something that would really have some wow factor that created just instant, wonderful sensory stim. And already it's fantastic because you can see it from the windows. You can go out, residents and family members and staff members go out and have lunch. That was for our opening event. So that's why we have all the tables and the tents.
I was
But
gonna say, that's not your normal programming features
no,
there.
no, not at all. Well, we're a bit ritzy in horticultural therapy down here. We do have a very southern way of doing things, but
Your
it's
hats and everything.
absolutely. So this was all, of course, part of the design process. I had a fantastic team to work with.
It's
David
gorgeous.
as a landscape architect that I've worked on other projects with, and Lyle Collins with Southern Trillium Landscape Design. He did the water feature and the raised beds. So all of our raised beds and water features are custom built. And I worked very closely. The design team worked very closely with the construction team. And so it was a fantastic, very creative process. I enjoyed that very much. So if
And
you
did you feel like your hopes and expectations came to fruition out of this design here?
I do. When you see the rest of it, seeing how it's going to be used by our residents and staff, I think that we've pulled it off. Being the perfectionist I am, I see things that I would have changed a little bit or should be tweaked, but some of that can be done later. So here, if you're
Which
looking
one?
at if you stay on that slide,
Sure.
um, in between the buildings, of course, you see the pool of the main water feature. To the
Hmm.
left, you see raised beds. Right now, we're getting a lot of sun because, of course, the trees have to grow. We have raised beds that are situated for sitting or standing. You can see
Mm,
that one of the raised beds has a sort of round center, so that's more of a standing height.
mm.
Plenty of space for wheelchairs. And I know right now, looking at it, it looks like a lot of hardscape, but it's very densely planted, and the photos. This photo's you know a month or so, a couple months old, so things have filled in. All the perennials are really filling in. We
Nice.
also have a grassy area, and that's also used in case PT wants to work on gait training on grass.
Mm,
Um,
okay. Yep.
if you go to, there's another slide with what looks like a bocce court,
Yeah,
a green court.
Oh, that was previous right here.
Yeah, right there.
yeah.
So that is a court designed for adapted bocce, beanbag toss, horseshoes, putting. So activities can utilize this space, and so can therapy.
Interesting.
All of those challenge balance. And it's kind of hard to see from this angle, but there's a walkway going around the bocce court that has multiple surfaces.
Oh,
So
yeah.
as you're doing gait training, you can utilize the AstroTurf, the grass that you saw previously. There's stone, brick pavers, concrete, and then there's concrete finished to feel like asphalt. So you can
Yep.
encounter all of those surfaces as you're working on your walking or wheelchair use. But
That's
we
cool.
I have to say, it kind of makes
That's
me
really
want to
cool.
take it makes me want to take my shoes off and walk barefoot on grass. You know what I mean? It's
yeah,
like that
yeah.
little treasure chest of soft textures to walk on. I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but that's what it invites me
Well, you're
to
welcome too, and you can take it to no no judgments, no judgment. Just try to have a pedicure ahead of time. Um,
do.
Yeah,
but
because you don't want to bring the dogs out and have them be on. I did that the other day. They're like, and the kids go, "Oh my gosh, who let the dogs out?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Like, I didn't know that term. Who let the
oh
Oh
yeah,
dogs
yeah,
out?
the feet.
yeah,
Yes, yes.
I'm just like, where does that even come from? Anyways,
yeah.
yeah,
My dogs are killing me. That's the
Yeah.
sad. So this design is more rehab focused, and we do
pretty.
have a lot of residents in wheelchairs. So you have to have those sort of open plaza spaces, especially when we have outdoor functions, because wheelchairs they fill a lot of space and they can start bumping into each other. And and I can tell you firsthand, people do not like having their wheelchairs bumped.
Yeah,
Between one another. They really don't like it.
yeah, yeah.
All right. Yeah, so you can advance on to if you want. There's an up close of the raised bed, the stone stack raised bed. That's
So
the one.
Oh yeah.
have you used the raised beds yet?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So right now we have tomatoes, basil, peppers. I wanted to have a little color, but in the future, of course, the residents are going to direct whatever they want to grow. And
Hmm.
and I'll provide it. We have pineapples growing as sort of our thrillers in the centers,
What?
and a banana.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. We grow pineapples every summer, and we eat them. So I mean, they're wonderful.
That's incredible.
Yeah, they're cool. It
A little
takes two
different in
years.
Georgia.
It is, well, it is a little different. We do have to pull them into the greenhouse for the winter because they take 2 years.
Hmm.
Yeah, so
And
that's
say,
the
and what
rehab.
about the bananas? Do you actually get bananas from that?
We'll get little green bananas, but they never really ripen before we get hit by a
Hmm.
frost.
Hmm. So the users of the space, how frequent are the same people coming into the therapeutic garden?
I'm seeing, well, we have the regular crowd. We have a lot of the regulars that are outside in the gardens daily. Of course, whenever I'm doing horticultural therapy sessions and the weather's conducive, we're out in the gardens. And even if it's just, we may do a session inside if it's really hot and then say, hey, let's take a quick, twirl through the garden and see how the tomatoes look. We might scoot
Mhm.
out there and take a look at those. Um, but then when the weather's a little more conducive in the spring and in the fall, of course, we're planting the raised beds and deciding what's going to go in those. Now, this brings us to the what we're calling the memory care garden, and it's to the front side of the memory care building. I wasn't
How
crazy
deep
about
are
having,
those beds?
oh, those are only, maybe about 6 to 8 inches. I'm trying to remember the original specs. Um, I I wanted to make sure that we have good leg and wheelchair clearance, but that the pans weren't so thick that it put it up at an uncomfortable height. They all have hidden drainage and hidden irrigation,
Nice.
so that decreases some of the maintenance. That's some of the other raised beds.
It's a
We
pretty
have
one.
them,
I like that.
yeah, different configurations.
How
Um,
is that steel with heat? Does it not absorb the heat too much on
it's
the hot
it's pretty
days?
reflective. Yeah, now during the summer, it's a little warm, but by the time it's hot enough to warm up the metal, then we're not out there leaning on them.
Mhm.
But it's
Yeah.
really not that bad. And I've worked with them before, even if I had to hit it with a little water or something ahead of time to cool things off. But when
Mhm.
it gets hot enough to bake, um,
Mhm.
we're not in the middle of it and
Mhm.
Did
leaning
you
on.
say hot enough to bake?
Hmm.
It really gets that hot down there, huh?
This is Georgia.
Sorry, I'm a northeast. You're like
Oh my goodness,
you're like this
yes.
is Georgia, Aaron.
Well, we don't sweat, we perspire, and then
Uh,
we don't really perspire. So it,
so I mean,
we
you
don't,
definitely have a different growing season than us. So what is your times you go out there and times you don't, months you don't?
it's best if we go out before we get into the 80, mid to high 80s, and that happens pretty quickly down here.
Mhm.
So in that case, we'd go out in the mornings or in the
Mhm.
evenings when it cooled off a bit. Um,
Mhm.
but of course, it's nothing for us to have several months over 90-degree highs.
Right.
So
True.
And what about actually going out in, say, February? I mean, is that, with some of the quote unquote spring
mhm,
ephemerals, or getting, some plants that start off
mhm,
early, or you could germinate,
mhm.
spinach or arugula or those types of early spring
With
plants.
with my older adults, they don't like to be cold, and it's not safe to be super hot. So
Yeah.
there, I do have a few residents that are hardy with, putting on a sweater and let's get out and get some fresh air.
Hmm.
Others really want to wait until it warms up a little bit, but we get good
Hmm.
weather at the end of February, March. So there's
Hmm.
really, not a lot of time that we can't go outside. But I have a lot of stuff that we can do inside. We have our greenhouses and grow lights, and we spread out and work together at tables. Uh,
That's
these are
nice.
these are on our balconies, and those were custom designed by Lyle with Southern Trillium, so that our balcony planters were usable raised beds. So we do have a lot of residents that love the new balconies, and those first floor patio leads out to the garden you just saw. And
Hmm.
so they can sit, roll right up, and plant annuals, and we'll change those out seasonally.
Hmm. And you mentioned hidden drainage earlier, and maybe you could elaborate for our listeners, especially those who are interested in creating raised beds for wheelchair access. What's the
Sure.
importance of hidden drainage, and tell us more how it's constructed here?
Well, I didn't
Question.
want to have a situation where you had water dripping on your legs. So the drainage is situated so that it collects the water and takes it away either down one of the columns of the masonry raised beds, or in this case, there's a center drain. The box that you see,
This one?
it drains directly down to a floor drain.
Hmm.
So I can water, or you can water while you're sitting there, and you don't get dripped on, and you don't
Smart.
get
Hmm.
water all over your surface. And so there's no
Hmm.
puddling, there's no algae, there's no slipping or staining.
So
That's
is there a
smart.
liner in
Smart.
the planter itself, like a rubber pond
Yes.
liner?
Yes. This is
Yeah.
tropical wood. So Lyle installed basically pond liner.
Yeah.
And so that keeps the soil from being in direct contact with the wood all of the time. The
Yeah.
stainless beds, of course, didn't need it.
Hmm.
What kind of
Yeah.
wood did you say this is?
Oh goodness, it's a tropical wood, and I should know it, but
Something like Ipe, maybe? Or
it's like Ipe, but it's not like the purple Ipe. It's another very dense tropical wood. I should have
Mhm.
had that for you, but
No
I
worries.
That's
just
okay.
spaced it. You know, when Lyle started talking about a lot of the materials and how it goes together, I just, start thinking, oh, the potato vines will be so pretty.
And here they are. And then, so this
Yeah,
is a
yeah,
view from the outside, right? Obviously.
exactly. That's
That's
we. So those are three of the six balconies,
wow.
and so it's really nice. They are safe and enclosed, but feel open, and
Mhm.
already they're just getting so much use. The color, originally they said, "Hey, Kirk, do you want some? Wouldn't it be nice to have some window boxes on the balconies?" At the time, I really didn't want to push my luck because I was getting a lot of cool stuff in the therapy gardens that we were putting in. And I was also thinking about my maintenance. Do I want to have that? Because it's
Mhm.
a lot more to take care of and plant.
Right.
But it just turned out to be such a great opportunity to put a raised bed really in the community with
Hmm.
the residents. And
Hmm.
so Lyle and I started batting around some design ideas and landed on those. And what originally everyone was thinking was going to be just some pretty simple, plain boxes, we of course turned them into something really cool. And
Hmm.
I'm just really happy about them. They're great.
Can you give our viewers a sense of the dimensions of those raised beds, just so we understand? So, because it's important that the
Mhm.
users the participants are able to reach in as far as possible and have the
Yes,
capacity of doing so.
I'm trying to remember the measurements, but I want to say, we were right at about, we landed around 28 to 30 inches, something like that. It wasn't,
Why? Yeah.
yeah, just really just a good wheelchair height, but also I have a lot of shorties. I'm tall, I'm 6'3", but even some of the ladies that are in wheelchairs, they're quite small, petite,
Hmm.
and I wanted to make sure that they could, get their arms up on there and reach in. So
Hmm.
they're able to rest their forearms, rest their arms on the top of the planters.
Yeah, one thing I'll mention is I have raised beds similar to these that are permanently situated, and the elevation is they're about 28 inches to 30 inches high, and it depends
Mhm,
because our edge is 28, but then the soil kind of elevates upwards a bit.
mhm.
But then it's about reaching in when you're sitting, and how far you can reach in is only so far.
Right.
And I mean, somebody standing, you can reach in further, but those with wheelchairs. So being sure that the width or if you
It
call it the
is.
width, is going to be also in that, regular arm's reach.
That's really important. And also that how much of that reach did the materials take up?
Yeah.
So if you have
Hmm.
a really wide stone capped masonry bed, you've lost almost a foot of your reach in. Um,
Exactly.
Here
Right.
we're about, I don't think we're over 2 feet. Um, if you're approaching a raised bed from one side, you certainly don't want to go over 2 feet because you
Hmm.
can't walk around to the other side. If you can walk around all sides, then 4 feet's usually okay.
Yeah.
In this case, we wanted to keep the profile pretty narrow so that it didn't take up too much of the patio space.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yep. Great. Thank you.
Sure. That's just an overview
Mm.
of some of the walkways. There is another door going into the building as you approach the gazebo, and it's over to the left. It'll go into a sunroom. I don't think I have a photo of that one.
Okay. All right.
So you can access the garden from the sunroom or from the patio.
Aaron, if you're not familiar with the pine needle mulch, that is the Georgia way of
That
doing
is not,
mulching.
it is not only the Georgia way, it is the way. I love some pine straw. And the goal of course is to not see all of the pine straw. As the plants grow, um,
Yeah.
the pine straw just, you use less and less of it, so you see
Yeah.
less brown. But for me, I like it because it doesn't wash. It doesn't wash out
Mhm.
into walkways. It's easy to install. It's easy to refresh.
It really allows water to percolate, permeate through and everything, unlike some of our wood mulch that we have. It doesn't,
It
wood
does.
mulch can mat down too much sometimes. So,
Mhm.
I've been in, there's a company I work with that does salt marsh hay.
hmm,
It's been
nice.
doing, I've been really enjoying that.
Well, a lot of people, a lot of if you're going through gardening forums and gardening discussions, they recommend arborist chips, but I just don't like the way they look.
Yep.
They're hard to shovel, they're hard to move around. Um, you have to
And
find a spot for it
is
to
that a
die.
red bud over there?
That is, yeah, we have
Yeah.
that's a great tree for Georgia.
Yep.
Lots of tree choices in the gardens. I love trees. I just one of my favorite things. So we have red buds and styrax and beech, uh, Carolina silver
Oh,
bells,
okay.
uh,
Hmm.
I was
lots of
gonna,
variety. That's
I was kind of
we
saying like,
have all the-
where is this compared to this main one? But it's kind of over here, right?
it is. It's
Mm-hmm.
back where the raised beds are. Of
Okay.
course, we love crepe myrtles. We have those.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
How
they're
about as far as sound goes? So, the sensory experience in those gardens, how did you appreciate designing with that criteria in mind?
I've run into situations where a water feature could actually be too loud. And,
Mhm.
uh, you know, uh, we, there is a sort of a busy street in front of the building. And I initially wanted to have water features that would sort of drown out that busy street. What we ran into it with COVID is that family members and residents had to meet outside. And it was oftentimes near a water feature. That's where our patio spaces are. And many of our residents, our elders, are hard of hearing. And so they the water features became an interference. So we had to adjust the volumes. In the case of the new water features, we modified and adjusted and tweaked until the pumps gave us the sound that we wanted.
Mhm.
And the waterfalls were skillfully placed so that the sound they produced wasn't overwhelming. So sound was a really big consideration. And
Interesting.
then the smaller water feature up in the memory care garden has a three-tier sort of traditional water fountain. And it just provides a really nice general, gentle trickle. And
It's
uh,
much more pleasant. I agree,
it
definitely.
is very pleasant, but also it is an enclosed dementia-specific garden. So
Mhm.
I didn't want to have a big waterfall with, even albeit it's a shallow pool, I didn't want any
Mhm.
opportunity for, body surfing or,
Ah,
anything, any anything
I
that
can
could
see
be a
Kirk
little
body
risky.
surfing, on his day off.
I
Just
told
joking.
I told our I told our CEO that that was going to be part of rehab therapy. It the adapted body surfing. And, if they could manage to get up on the surfboard and stay there, then they could be discharged.
There.
But, but those are smaller
One
water
thing,
features.
I was curious about is proximity to traffic and to just the general outdoor noise of, passersby or parking lots. How are these placed in those areas?
There were there were constraints, and I will tell
Mm,
you that that to me keeps is one of the critiques I have of
mm,
this brand new garden. It had to go where it went. I didn't have
mm,
another place to put it,
mm,
and no one wanted a solid wall enclosing
mm.
the garden.
Right.
And for a dementia-specific garden, ideally you don't want to have residents looking out on to parking lots and the entrance where cars come and go, because it creates that feeling of, I want to go, I want to leave.
Yeah.
And it can, so I knew that going in. So what we did is we created more of a planting buffer, and we have plant materials that are going to form more of a green screen. Plus,
Yep.
I'm planting vines in certain strategic locations so that it creates more of a green screen. And
Hmm.
not only will that um, adapt and modify the view from the inside out, it'll also help buffer some of the road noise.
Yes. Yeah.
That
Interesting.
is a big consideration, and it didn't go unnoticed. It didn't slip past us.
Yeah.
It's just sometimes there are compromises,
Yeah. It's
and
problem solving. It's you just have to be innovative with your problem solving.
it is, and tweak. You got to tweak it
Yep.
and modify it, and understand that that garden is not finished. It's not going to be finished.
Hmm.
There's always going to be something growing or changing, or
Hmm.
you know,
Hmm.
you'll see that there's a need arises.
Yeah.
Uh, so it has
Okay.
to be a little fluid.
Yeah. You make a good point about the encage like the sense of being caged in and feeling
Yeah,
like, oh, I want to be out there, but you
there
know, at the same time, you do want to create this buffer so that they
is.
can focus within the area that they
Yeah.
are
You want
intended
to
to.
draw them into the garden rather
Inward.
than looking outward.
Hmm.
And
Exactly.
it is something that, yeah, I totally get that. Um, it it's also something though I have asked my elders,
Hmm.
those that can really they can tell you what they like and don't like.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
True.
not every elder living in this building has advanced dementia.
Mm. Right.
Um, and I've specifically asked them, do you like being able to see out and see what's going on? Or would
Hmm.
you rather feel like you're looking at plants and vines and plant materials and all that? And they said, I like feeling like I'm in a private garden,
Yeah.
but I also like to be able to see what's going on. I
Yeah.
like to
A
be
little
able
bit
to,
of both.
have a few little peepholes or, somewhere that you can,
Windows. I mean, you can
Yep.
literally call them garden windows, and
Yeah.
I've even seen people hang old storm windows out into their garden, and so,
That's great.
and
I
then
like that idea.
the vining materials are on the trellises surrounding those windows. So it
Mhm.
feels like they get that opportunity. But it's just
The
like,
balconies do help with that. The
yeah,
balconies, they get
yeah,
a bird's eye view of everything from
yeah,
the,
Yeah. I mean, it's that front porch of interest,
Mhm.
sitting on the front porch, watching life go by.
Yeah. And, my great grandmother, great aunt, great uncle, they had the rockers on the front porch, and
Hmm.
that's what they loved doing. And that's where the
Yeah.
family gathered, and that's where they told stories. And,
Hmm.
we would sit and play Chinese checkers while
Love
they were,
Chinese
yeah,
checkers.
it's awesome while they're, talking about what's going on, or stories from the past, and they would see who was driving by.
Yeah,
So
Hmm.
that's
Yeah.
what
I like that. I like that window idea. I really do in the
Yeah.
garden. It's a good idea.
You may need plexiglass, or just no glass at all, but
I
I think it
my
could be.
kids would be no glass whatsoever.
yeah,
You can't do
exactly.
Well, you can certainly prune, you prune windows into
Yeah.
spaces. It was fun because I finally got to install two espalier pears. And I've always
Oh,
wanted some
yes.
espalier, and we have them in the rehab garden against that stone wall.
Yeah.
And
Pretty, pretty.
so, we're going to be doing a little pruning there, but I think it's going to be fun. So, yeah, you
Hmm.
can definitely prune windows and create views or block.
Hmm. Hmm.
Well, I mean, I am so jealous of your spaces. You have done such an amazing work with that whole area. I loved seeing all the photos. I have so many more to share too. But I definitely are running out of time. But I do want to say thank you so much for coming on tonight and showcasing your gardens that you just put in and all your hard work. You are a one-man show down there, and it's really amazing what you do in the horticulture therapy field. So
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. We're very
Kirk,
excited about these new gardens.
yeah.
Kirk, I'm gonna be down there in October. I want a private tour. Can I get a
I will
private tour
I
from
will
you?
give you a tour. Yes,
All
absolutely.
right.
Shoes or no shoes, it's your choice. So
And I expect some bocce balls or boule or something of that nature.
and some
absolutely. I'll give you
Chinese checkers on the lawn.
Yeah, exactly.
I will give you the full tour. The full tour. You'll have
Thank
the full
you.
meal deal.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you everyone for listening tonight, for coming on, for watching us. Please follow, like, share our YouTube channel, which is
What
fairly
is it?
new.
What is it
You
called, Erin?
Oh, well, I told you I was getting to that. Um, no, but it is the Aha Moment HT, the YouTube channel. This is our second episode that we've been doing. We have a Facebook account, the Aha Moment Podcast. We have Instagram. Please follow us, Aha Moment _HT. And also we do our audio still on Podbean. Please like, please follow, please share. The more the word gets out, the better. Um, and to showcase our HTs that we have here coming on.
Thank you, Kirk.
Thanks
Thank
so
you, Kirk.
much. Good to see you both.
Good to
You
see
as
you.
well.